In the quiet solitude of his study, surrounded by manuscripts and scientific instruments, Isaac Newton sat at his sturdy wooden desk. The soft light filtered through the window, illuminating the face of the scientist as he penned a letter to his colleague, Robert Hooke. In this very letter, he would write the famous line that would echo through the centuries: "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." But who was this man, capable of uncovering the secrets of nature and deriving the laws that describe the motion of planets? Isaac Newton was born in 1643 in a small village called Woolsthorpe, England. He was a frail child, growing up in relative isolation, but his curiosity and thirst for knowledge were limitless. While other children ran through fields and played games, Isaac found joy in observing the stars, the movement of water, and the play of light. Later, when he entered the University of Cambridge, his fascination with the mysteries of the world only deepened, and he began to ask questions that no one else could answer. In 1665, the Great Plague swept across England, forcing the university to close. Newton returned to his family home, and it was during this period of isolation that he made some of his most groundbreaking discoveries. The legendary story of the apple falling on his head might be apocryphal, but it captures a profound truth. Newton's reflections on gravity arose from his ability to see the universal in the ordinary. He pondered how the same force that pulls an apple to the ground might also keep the moon in its orbit around the Earth. These thoughts led him to formulate the laws of motion and the law of universal gravitation, which would form the foundation of classical mechanics. Around the same time, Newton made significant strides in understanding the nature of light. He discovered that white light could be separated into its constituent colors by passing it through a prism, proving that light was made up of particles. This was one of his first major contributions to science, and it caught the attention of other scientists, including Robert Hooke. Hooke was a respected figure in the scientific community of the time, and although he made important contributions to various fields, his relationship with Newton was complicated. Hooke often criticized Newton's ideas, questioning their originality and suggesting that Newton's work borrowed heavily from earlier thinkers. It was in response to such criticisms that Newton wrote the now famous phrase, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." These words can be read as both a humble acknowledgement of the influence of past thinkers and the subtle reminder to Hooke that scientific progress is built collectively. This statement carries a deep meaning. Newton, despite his monumental achievements, recognized that his discoveries were not made in isolation. He built on the work of earlier scientists like Ptolemy, Kepler, Galileo, and, of course, Descartes. These predecessors laid down the groundwork, paving a path upon which Newton could advance. His statement was a recognition that science is not a solitary endeavor, but a collaborative process where each new insight rests on a foundation laid by those who came before. But how did this realization shape Newton himself? After publishing his works, Newton quickly became a leading figure in the scientific world. Yet, by nature, he remained a reserved man, more comfortable in solitude than in the public eye. His understanding of his role as part of a broader scientific tradition gave him a unique perspective. He saw himself not as the pinnacle of knowledge, but as a link in a long chain of discovery. This perspective drove him to continue his research with humility, always pushing the boundaries of what was known. Newton's legacy would eventually reshape the world. His work formed the bedrock of classical physics, and his laws of motion and gravitation remain fundamental to our understanding of the universe. In time, Newton himself became one of those giants upon whose shoulders future generations would stand. When Albert Einstein developed the theory of relativity in the early 20th century, he built upon Newton's laws, even as he redefined the way we understand space and time. Newton had shown that each step forward in science is part of a larger story. What can we learn from this? Newton's words remind us that every achievement is built upon the accumulated wisdom, knowledge, and effort of many others. We all stand on the shoulders of those who came before us, whether in science, art, business, or life itself. Rather than diminishing our sense of accomplishment, this understanding can inspire us. Knowing that the great minds of the past have helped us reach this point can give us the courage to aim higher. Newton's message also teaches us the importance of respecting the work of those who came before us. In a world that constantly pushes for innovation, it is easy to forget the foundations on which our understanding rests. But without this respect, it is impossible to appreciate our own place in the world and the effort needed to push boundaries. Inspired by Newton and his wisdom, we can recognize that one does not need to be a genius to achieve greatness. What is required is a genuine curiosity, a willingness to learn, and the courage to continue the journey despite setbacks and doubts. By standing on the shoulders of those before us, we can reach for the stars both literally and metaphorically. This desire to reach beyond the known is what connects us to the great chain of thinkers and dreamers who have changed the world. And so, as Newton sat in his study, penning that fateful letter, he could not have known how far his words would travel. They would take on a life of their own, inspiring generation after generation of those who sought to see further, think deeper, and discover new truths. And each of us, when faced with challenges and uncertainty, can remember, greatness is not achieved alone, but through the collective efforts of many, with every step forward bringing us closer to something greater.